once I thought this makes sense, to sell. And, I said this recently on TV. I was like, Jamie Dimon was calling it a pet rock and Elizabeth Warren. I said, guys, the arrogance that's coming out of your mouth is shocking, right? Ray Dalio, Jeff Yaz, Abby Johnson, Paul Jones, Stan Druckenmiller, some of the best investors of the world, Pete Brigger, Mickey Milker, they all think there's value, but you're smarter than them. Yep, Elizabeth, you are so much smarter than all of the best investors in the world that like it. I was like, you don't have to like it, but don't be so arrogant to say it's not worth anything.
In this episode of Only the Savvy, we bring you an exciting interview with Mike Novogratz, founder and CEO of Galaxy Digital, hosted by Anthony Scaramucci at Salt Eye Connections, New York. Novogratz shares his expert insights on the state of the global economy, the current challenges facing the United States, fiscal policies, and the transformative potential of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. At the time of this recording, Bitcoin is trading around $66,000, with a slight decrease of 2% in the past 24 hours and an 8% rise over the last 30 days. Approximately 19.71 million Bitcoins are currently in circulation, with a max supply of 21 million Bitcoins available. Tune in to understand why Novogratz believes Bitcoin could become a cornerstone of the digital economy. Before we dive into this discussion, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Only the Savvy. Let's tune in to hear Mike Novogratz's insights on Bitcoin's role in the future of finance.
Because that group of people saw worth in it. I saw worth in it early on because I thought this was an idea that would catch fire. It was an idea that would catch fire because Satoshi saw populism coming. The moment Brexit happened, it was the best thing for crypto. Populist governments spend too much money. That's why they're called populist. And we have a populist wave going around the world. We had a North Star before 15. It was called globalization. We believed in it. Collectively, rightfully or wrongfully, the world believed in globalization. And with Brexit, globalization fell apart. Now we're talking about resourcing and a war with China. None of that was there. And so we've created this political and economic environment for Bitcoin to thrive. And it's why I was talking about gold and silver, for hard assets to thrive. And Bitcoin is a digital hard asset that is beloved by hundreds of millions of people right now. What we're seeing in DC right now, last week, was the Democrats finally waking up a little bit. I mean, I've been down there so much, and I am more of a Democrat than a Republican, but these days I'm pivoting more to becoming a radical centrist. Because of Elizabeth Warren and the power she's had around the financial decisions in DC, in the Biden administration, it was like Democrats don't like crypto. And I said loudly and publicly, I was like, guys, there are 65 million dog owners in America. There are 85 million crypto owners. And right now, the Democratic Party risks being the party that doesn't like dogs. We hate dogs. I was like, you can't just hate crypto. And, on the same day that Biden threatened to veto this arcane accounting rule, Trump came out and said, I'm your crypto president. And it has almost become a purity test now in the crypto community. Republicans like crypto, Democrats don't. And if you don't vote for Trump, you're not a crypto person. And so the Democrats last week, for the first time, we had a bipartisan vote where 10 senators crossed the line, and I forgot what it was, 20 congressmen.
20 congressmen.
And so we'll think about crypto and Bitcoin specifically, right? If you take for a second the premise that Bitcoin is digital gold, and the growth of it is a function of adoption. It's a function of people having it explained to them and believing it. And so by definition, almost, Bitcoin is sold, not bought, right? You get orange pilled. The world is scary in lots of ways. I often think growing up, I would watch James Bond movies and, they'd have the table with Spectre around and all the bad guys. And now I'm like, geez, that looks like the world leaders of today. If it's Putin or Orban and so we don't have the stability that a lot of us grew up with politically. And economically, things are constantly in flux. Listen, the U.S. economy in lots of ways is strong, right? We've got close to full employment. We continue to surprise macro thinkers how strong the economy is. To me, it's pretty simple. We've got a government that can't keep its pants on. following another government that couldn't keep its pants on, and we're spending 6.5% more than we're taxing. And so when you run 6.5% budget deficits, that's a lot of growth, right? If we were running a 3% budget deficit right now, we'd have flat growth or negative. But at 6.5%. Why is that important? Because we're currently spending about 26% of total GDP at the federal level. In 1984, my first real job other than being a gardener, I worked at the Office of Management and Budget under Ronald Reagan. At one point, I was a little more Republican. And I learned back then, the federal government is allowed to spend 20%. And they try to tax 20%. So if there's one lesson to take from this talk, it's the bellwether between Republican and Democrat was you get a 20% of GDP budget. Bill Clinton was the only president that taxed 20% and spent 20%, right? 1999, part his doing and part just luck that we had the tech bubble. But you try to keep that close. And what happened in 2015 with the rise of populism in this country, right? First you had Brexit, then you had Trump. Trump, really the first populist president of our lifetime, followed by Biden, another populist president, is they took spending up first because of COVID and then just because. So now federal spending as a percent of GDP is roughly 26%. That's 6% more than it should be. 100% is contributing to the inflation, and 100% is contributing to why most macro traders have been wrong and thinking, oh, the economy is going to slow. The economy is going to slow. It's not slowing because government spending isn't that cyclical. Right? If you think about what we did with Build Back Better and the Inflation Reduction Act and the CHIPS Act, this is like a Chinese 5-year plan. We're going to spend this money over 5 years, and it's a lot of money. And it doesn't matter what the interest rate cycle is. It doesn't matter. It's getting spent. It gets into this machine that kicks it back out. And so, that crowds out some other investments, so you have some inefficiencies in the market. But broadly, it's keeping our economy afloat.
As we just heard, Mike Novogratz discusses the challenges facing the United States in embracing Bitcoin technology, especially with opposition from figures like Elizabeth Warren. He highlights Bitcoin's unique attributes, emphasizing its fixed supply and potential to serve as digital gold, and notes the growing institutional interest. Novogratz also addresses the broader economic environment, including the macroeconomic challenges the United States faces, such as deficit spending and inflation, explaining how these factors contribute to Bitcoin's increasing relevance. He details the significant and growing interest in cryptocurrencies, noting there are 85 million crypto owners compared to 65 million dog owners in the United States. Let's listen to Mike Novogratz discuss more on gold, Bitcoin, and the ETF approval. If you are enjoying this content, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.
Both parties. Yeah. It's really scary for us as Americans. Now listen, if you're in this room, probably you will do fine because someone will tell you to buy gold, silver, copper, and equities, and you'll be in the right funds, and your asset prices will go up, as they are. Stocks go up every day. But most people in America don't own gold, silver, copper, equities, right? If you're 26 years old and you want to buy a house, just 12 years ago, the average house in America cost $190,000, and today it is $410,000. Like, think about what I just said. 12 years ago, you were starting as a 25-year-old at Anthony's shop. His salary is not double. You're probably paying 20% more, but the house is double or more than double, and the mortgage is a lot more expensive. And so both inflation and asset inflation really are like stomach punches to people that don't have assets. President Biden will probably still veto this bill. We'll see. I hope he doesn't. I think it would be really foolish if he does. But, the way politics works is they say, if I don't veto it, I'm going to make those congressmen and senators that we told to vote no look stupid. And those are my base. And so it's like, oh, come on, what's the right thing to do? For God's sakes, it's just not the way DC functions. And so we'll see. We'll see. There's going to be a lot of lobbying. There's another bill on stablecoins coming up. There's another bill on market structure. Hear me loud and clear. Crypto needs both Democrats and Republicans to understand it and to push it forward, right? It can't be a technology of one party. It will stink for the crypto industry because these elections are going to go back and forth for a long time. And crypto at its core any technology should be mostly bipartisan, right? Crypto has a little for both. It's got the libertarian streak of Bitcoin, but it's also got the progressive streak of cutting out the middleman, of cutting out banks, of cutting out music publishers, of cutting out all kinds of rent takers. And so why Elizabeth Warren decided she hated it is a mystery to me, but we've got to move beyond that chapter. We kind of had a perfect storm of, there was terror because of a lot of bad behavior in 2021, right? Froth and then bad behavior, plus the Fed raising rates. And so we would have gone down anyways without Sam Bankman-Fried and Do Kwon and all the other, BlockFi and Celsius and all the other problems, just because of the Fed raising rates. So we were starting from a distressed position, and then we got the ETF approval, and it can't be understated how important that Larry Fink, the single largest wealth manager in the world in history, who had been negative 5-6 years earlier, got orange pilled and said, actually, I see what these other people are seeing, and I think this is an asset that should be in lots of portfolios. And so while there are 11 ETFs, it was really Larry that made it easy for all of you guys to put some Bitcoin institutional investors in your portfolio. And that process has started, and that adoption process goes slowly. At the same time, we had the halving, which is another, the inflation rate gets cut in half. So imagine you had an asset and you say, guys, guess what? We just cut the inflation rate in half. But the inflation in your other asset, if it's dollars or euros or yen, that's pretty high and it's growing, right? So you've got a deflationary asset versus inflationary world. And so we had a nice run, and, prices are always set on the margin. There aren't that many sellers of Bitcoin. So many people who own it, who bought it, they believe in it almost religiously. So Michael Saylor's never selling his Bitcoin, which is very different than most assets, right? These guys think of their net worth and how many coins they own, not how many dollars they have. Now, that's not everybody, but that's a big core. And so you don't see a lot of turnover. And so, listen, we're consolidating here. We'll see what the Fed does. If the Fed starts pushing rates down, you're going to see crypto go higher. It might grind higher anyways, just with the belief that gold, silver, we're starting to lose faith that this stewardship that we have in the U.S. economy and the global economy is going to be good. And that's what the prices of precious are telling.
To wrap up this insightful episode from Only the Savvy, Mike Novogratz shared compelling insights into Bitcoin's future as a potentially revolutionary asset in the global financial system. His discussion highlighted Bitcoin's unique traits: a fixed supply, increasing adoption, and ability to operate outside traditional financial systems, underscoring its significance as a borderless digital store of value. We'd love to hear your thoughts as well. How do you see the macroeconomic challenges like deficit spending and inflation impacting Bitcoin's future growth? What are your thoughts on the political opposition to Bitcoin from figures like Elizabeth Warren? Thank you for tuning into Only the Savvy. If you enjoyed what you heard, please subscribe to our channel, like our video, and share it with anyone who would enjoy it. Stay connected for more insightful content exploring the innovative world of Bitcoin and blockchain technology. We have more exciting discussions lined up, so stay tuned.